Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Amin here and I am so excited to be filming this video. It has been 4 years since I graduated and started working full-time as a genetic counselor. If you've been on my channel for this entire time, you've seen me go through the process of getting my master's, graduating, applying for jobs, and then moving back home to Toronto and starting to work here as a genetic counselor. I am now very experienced in multiple specialties. My main specialty that I have the most experience in is prenatal. But over the last few months, I've also been learning cancer genetics and then also pediatric and adult genetics, working with the geneticists who are the physicians that are in our clinic. And so I have a lot of experience now, which is very different than what I did last year. But every year I've been making these Q&A videos in case you guys are interested in learning what the landscape is like the more and more I've been working. So thank you so much to everyone who has submitted questions on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram handle up here. It's Amin Overshares in case you want to follow along there as well. And then I've also posted on YouTube. So I got a couple questions here. So I'm going to try to be as concise as possible and answer all of your guys' questions now that I've been working 4 years as a genetic counselor. That's a good question. So I started as a genetic counselor after my undergraduate degree. And so I learned about it when I was about halfway through my degree. I was looking for a career in medicine and healthcare, but not necessarily one of those traditional careers. And I really came across genetic counseling when I was looking things up on Google, trying to find a career that well suited my strengths. I came across this, I had never heard of it before. I immediately was intrigued, and over the next few months, I did a lot of research, a lot of informational interviews. I learned what it takes to even apply to genetic counseling schools because it is very competitive. Now, I'm from Canada and there are limited opportunities for, going through a graduate program here. So I knew there was a lot more in the US and I ended up doing my master's there. But that's pretty much how I learned about it. I just came across it online, which is I'm sure the case for a lot of you, and then it got really interested and kind of learned more and more about it. It is going well for me. It is something that I do see myself doing for a long time, which is another question. Can you see yourself doing this forever? Why or why not? It is something that I see myself doing for the foreseeable future. There's no other career that has really piqued my interest. I'm not bored of it, which sometimes people ask me, but really I think because I work in so many specialties and the specialties that I love the most are very unique. So no two cases are the same, even if the indication is the same, the patient's reactions, their beliefs, their decision-making is so different and unique. It's really not boring. Again, this all depends on what you're wanting out of the career as well. So I work in a clinical setting, patient-facing setting. Not everybody does. Some people work in other areas. Some of them are not patient-facing roles, non-traditional type roles. So it all just depends on what you're looking for. But I do see myself doing this for a long time. I will say that with some of the specialties, it does get very difficult. Like emotions wise, because for example, in prenatal, we are giving a lot of bad news and helping people through very difficult things, and those heavy emotions really do stay with you. Of course, you have to have like good coping skills and potentially manage or even prevent burnout. But I think no matter how hard you try, you are human at the end of the day, and it does kind of stay with you. So I don't know if, I never say like 100% I see myself doing prenatal forever. I want to leave the opportunity for the fact that maybe one day I won't feel that way and I might not be interested in that specialty anymore, and that's okay. Because of the skill set that we have, through our masters and even every single day that we're using, we have a lot of transferable skills that can go on to different aspects, different roles, whether that be patient-facing, non-patient-facing, lab, industry, policy, teaching. There's so many avenues that you could take. So for right now, I do see myself doing exactly what I'm doing for a very, very long time, but I'm open to the idea that one day I might not feel that way and then I might have to look for other opportunities, but I'm not worried about there being other opportunities, essentially. Another question I got is about the pay of a genetic counselor. Now, I have talked about this in my first ever video that I made, which is all about genetic counseling. It's a little outdated now, but in terms of pay, it really depends on what your role is and where you're working. So where meaning the location and then also the employer that you're working for. I would say it's a pretty well-paying job. If you are interested in numbers and statistics, there is information out there which is called the PSS. I'll link it in the description below if you're interested as well. Basically with the PSS, it gives you an average pay for, a GC that just started, so like new grads, people in different industries, like patient facing, non-patient facing. So you can kind of see what the starting salary is. It really depends on where you end up working. Location is a huge thing. Like people who tend to work in bigger cities get more pay, and that's also because cost of living is a bit higher. So those are all the different considerations that you can, you factor in when you're deciding if this is a career for you. I would say that I am satisfied with the pay, and obviously we always want to be paid more. Like I wouldn't be mad if I were paid more, but it's not like I'm sitting here thinking that I'm not getting paid for what I do on a daily basis. So if you're interested in numbers, I'll link the PSS down below. Like I said, you can kind of compare and see to other allied health professionals if it's similar to what you're looking for, especially in the area that you're hoping to work in after you graduate. Okay, so those were the first two questions. I kind of did them together. Another question is, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned since beginning your career? This is a great question. And I think within the last year, so I would say like in my 4th year of being a genetic counselor, the most surprising thing for me is, like I said, I had only been doing prenatal for the first 3 years. So having to learn new specialties, I was really nervous about it. I had obviously gone through all of the rotational experiences with all these specialties when I was doing my master's, but it has been a few years. And so I was surprised at how quickly I was able to kind of navigate going from one specialty to the other. At the end of the day, the skills that we use and the questions that we ask are very similar between all specialties. And I think the main thing is that we are very skilled in taking complex topics and then breaking them down into understandable language, depending on someone's experiences and prior knowledge. And no matter what specialty you do, whether you're even talking to patients or talking to clients or the general public, whatever the case is, that skill can be used in every single sector. So having to actually do that myself and learn that myself, that was kind of surprising for me in a good way. Like there's nothing like bad, I would say, that I've learned in the last year that I've never touched on before. Like I've talked about other things that have come up like after year 1 or year 2 or even year 3. But I would say the biggest thing for me personally has been learning that I am capable of more than I thought. And that's because we are trained to really be able to work in any specialty and also in any really career. That's the great thing about the landscape of becoming a genetic counselor, is that there are so many different avenues that one could take depending on your interests, depending on the circumstances. And so that is something that I do appreciate about the career. And then a couple more questions. What do you do in a meeting if a patient has a question that you don't have an immediate answer for? This happens all the time. One of the things that I tell patients directly is that there are like 20,000 genes in our body. And so sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, like so this person in my family has XYZ syndrome. And I will literally say, I have never heard of that before. Let me look it up. And sometimes I say, let me Google it, because I am Googling it. But that doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm supposed to know. That means that I have the skill set to find the information and appropriate resources to give the answer. So essentially when I'm Googling it or when I'm looking things up, I'm not just getting like the AI answer and then giving that back to the patient. I'm actually looking through reputable websites to see, okay, what is the information that I need right away, which is typically the inheritance pattern. So I look at the inheritance pattern, briefly look at the condition while we're on the call. And then usually we need medical records anyways to give them a better information about what this could mean for their own health or their family planning. So one thing I'll do is I'll tell people I'm going to look it up right now. If it's something that's outside of my scope, I will say it's outside of my scope, and unfortunately I can't answer that. So for example, in prenatal, we would get quite a few questions that were more obstetric questions that are not genetic. And then I would say, unfortunately, that's not my area of expertise. Your obstetrician would be a better person to answer that question for you. However, if there is a genetic question and I don't know the answer, I will say, I will get back to you. I'm going to review this with my team, or I'll review this with a geneticist. And I would say almost always people are very appreciative of the fact that you will get them the answer that they want by asking someone else. Most people would rather have you do that and come back to them with an answer rather than pretend like you know and make it up. I would say like at least once a week, I get a question that I don't know about, and then I review it either with my colleagues or the geneticist, and then I just call the patient back or I email them back. So very common thing, and I actually do really appreciate that even in my own healthcare providers when they say, I actually don't know about this, let me ask a specialist, let me ask someone who knows a bit more, who has more experience, and then I'll get back to you. I feel like I trust that person a bit more. So if you're a GC or if you're in GC school and you're worried about this, super chill, like don't worry about it at all. Very common thing. And the last question is, how do you keep up to date with news in genetics and genomics? Also a very great question. One of the things that I love about this career is that it is changing all the time. Like every single day, things are changing. We're discovering new things. We're learning how to better, provide information to our patients, the population. One of the things as a genetic counselor is that you typically do have to be certified. So certification, you write a board exam, either through the American Certification Board or the Canadian, or actually you could do both. And again, all of my experience is just in North America. I don't know how things are outside of that. When you are certified, you have to have continuing education credits to maintain your certification. So we are actually mandated to stay up to date with new information. And there's so many different ways that you could do this, but essentially for the American one, it's every 5 years you have to recertify. For the Canadian, it's every 10 years. So within that time period, you have to have a certain number of credits and different types of credits to be able to recertify. Otherwise, you have to rewrite the board exam, which no one really wants to do. So these types of credits, you could get them from watching webinars, for example. You could do book clubs, you could do research, you can supervise students. The biggest thing for a lot of people is really attending conferences. So we have annual conferences, and there's many different conferences that you could be eligible for to get these types of credits, but usually the bigger associations like the National Society in the States and then the Canadian Association in Canada, they have annual conferences that you would attend and learn more about what's happening in the field. And so I have attended a conference every year since I graduated. A lot of this has to do with your employer and how supportive they are of maintaining your certification and education. Are they helping you pay for these conferences? Are they giving you time off? I know not everyone has the opportunities, which makes it a bit more difficult. But there are other things that you could do if you can't attend a conference like every year. For example, these days, a lot of the conferences are recorded. So you could buy the recordings, for example, and then watch them later on and then still apply for credits. So there are pros of, what happened during COVID. And I was a class that graduated during COVID. So all of that to say, there are a lot of opportunities to continue your education and you are required to continue your education. And that's how you can stay up to date and be the best GC for yourself and for your patients as well. With that, I will wrap up this video. It was short and sweet. I hope that you guys will stick around for year 5 of me being a genetic counselor, which sounds so wild to me. Just wanted to let you know that I'm still here, I'm loving it, and hopefully year 5 will be even better. If you guys have any suggestions of videos that you want to watch, definitely let me know in the comments below. I have an entire playlist of all genetic counseling related videos, which I'll link up on the screen. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more of my content. I obviously post genetic counseling content. I have fashion related content, lifestyle, and then recently I started sharing some of the books I like to read. So if you want to watch any of that, subscribe to my channel and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.